Welcome to the FemiNinja Project. I am your host, Cheryl Ilove, middle-aged ninja hiding in plain sight, dedicated to restoring human dignity one person at a time and helping you unleash your personal power. Discover that it's possible to look like a woman, act like a lady, move like a ninja, and think like a warrior. And remember, men are always welcome on the FemiNinja Project. Hello and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And this one is so special for so many reasons. This is the first episode for season 3. It is also episode 100 for the FemiNinja Project. And it is also the beginning of another new year. And I think a lot of us are not too sad to say goodbye to 2020. But anyway, we're starting out this new year, this new season, with a fantastic guest. Her name is Lynn K Russell. She is an expert on near-death experiences. She's an author, speaker, and a Unitarian Chaplain. She is the author of the book titled The Wonder of You: What the Near-Death Experience Tells You About Yourself. And she wrote this after researching 2,500 near-death experiences. Lynn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. And you are such an amazing person for so many reasons, and I only highlighted just a very few in your introduction. But what I love about you and your life story is that you have overcome a tremendous amount of obstacles and challenges in your life, starting from an incredibly young age.
Yes, I was only 5 months old when actually what happened is I had pneumonia and whooping cough together at the same time. And I was extremely ill and I had a high fever. And the point of that is that because of the fever, the doctor told my mother that I would probably be mentally slow. I would have some difficulties. And so that was a significant piece because later on, I was assessed as mentally slow. And that took off a huge piece of my life. So that's the beginnings. And I also showed signs of mental illness when I was about 3, and I started to see monsters coming out of the walls. Every child sees monsters. But this was during the war years. And in the war, we had to black out our curtains in the bedrooms. And so it was really, really dark. But anyway, I started to see little monsters coming at me. And so that was the beginning of quite a lifetime.
Well, the two things I just wanted to point out. Number one, at 5 months old, to be battling something like pneumonia and the whooping cough at the same time is just amazing that you survived.
Yes, I was blue by the time my mother found me in my crib. And so she immediately, my father went across the street because that was where the phone was, at the police station across the street, and they called the doctor. And the doctor just took me right away. As soon as he saw me, he took me to the hospital. And I was there for about 6 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's incredible. And I think that must have been even before the advent of antibiotics.
Oh, yes. And the other thing is that it was at the very end of the dirty 30s, the big depression that they had back then. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. That and all of that fit together into my life, because that was part of the reason why I was so ill, because we lived in a house that was just freezing. There was no heat. So, and it's wintertime, and it's Canada. So there you go.
God. So then I want to now forward to at the age of 3 years old, and you're starting, the monsters and everything. And like you said, yeah, every child does have that. But with the blackout curtains, and not only that, it was World War II.
Yeah.
And as a 3-year-old child, did you understand what was going on? I mean, I would think that would actually heighten your anxiety and your fears, and the monsters in the closet, they might be coming and falling from the sky as well to take you away.
Yes, that's a good point because my mother and my father were very active in the war. And so it's quite possible that I heard a lot about what was
Mm,
happening. I know
mm,
that at 6, I went to the movies with my brothers, and we would see people um, like the refugees running away from places that were bombed. And I remember seeing that.
Oh, what a horrible thing to see at the age of 6. I mean, even if it's on a movie theater, your brain is still processing that
Yes,
information and
yes,
taking it in.
yes, yes.
Oh, goodness. So then at 7 years old, when you were in the second grade, you were
Right,
evaluated as mentally slow
right.
and you were called stupid,
Oh,
dummy,
yes.
and a lot of other really horrible things.
Yes, yes. Coupled with that was that we had a very poor home. My family was very dysfunctional, and my father was a bully and
Mm,
not a very nice person at all. So he that opened the door for him to be very abusive toward me,
mm,
and I
mm,
became one of the scapegoats in the family.
mm. So you actually became the scapegoat for your dad,
Yes,
and he took a lot of his anger and his rage out on you.
yes, and he also, I can't remember all the names. I think there was about 5 different names that he called me, um, and that was very hurtful. People
Hmm.
say that names don't hurt, but that's an illusion.
Yeah, words are very powerful. They can either
Yes,
heal or they can hurt.
yes.
So, was there anybody that could intervene for you at the time, or was it just,
No, no, my mother. I don't know if she didn't see it or it didn't matter, but she didn't intervene at all. No.
now, where were you in the birth order?
I'm the third child. I had 2 brothers ahead of me, and then I have a sister that's younger than me. And
Okay,
both my brothers are gone, but
okay.
but my sister's still here.
And now your dad was a policeman, is that right?
Yes, yes, that's right.
So, do you think that maybe some of what he experienced at work actually exacerbated some of his anger and his rage, or was it because he was drinking?
Oh no, my dad wasn't an alcoholic. He was just a
Oh,
bully.
oh, okay.
No. And as far as the work goes, no, I don't think so because well, the world was a whole different thing back in those days. I mean, um, we hear about it in movies and things in 1950s and
Hmm.
40s.
Hmm.
So the world was a whole different world. But anyway, my dad, no, I just think that was him. And I think it was because of his bullying when he
Hmm.
was a child. And then he just passed it on.
Well, that does happen that way.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm. And you grew up, like you said, in incredible poverty. I mean, not even having heat in the winter. I mean, did that change at any time, or was that like your whole childhood growing
Well,
up?
when that changed almost right away. When I came out of the hospital, I did not return to the original home. We went to a place that it was a house with heat, the
Mm.
backyard, and the whole thing. So, yeah, we were much better off then.
Is that when you got your dog?
Yeah, yeah. As a matter of fact, no, actually, I've moved so many times. I don't think about things in age. I think things in where I was living
Mm.
because I lived in so many different places. So that's how I think about things. So we got our dog when I was 5.
Mm.
And so that was a different house. That was
Mm.
about 4 houses later.
Okay. Wow. You guys really did move a lot around a lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Was that difficult? I mean, but were you in the same like little town? So, or did you have to keep trying to meet new people, make new friends?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I became very withdrawn, very, very shy, kept away from kids. I stood in the corner most of the time. During recess, I would find a corner to stand in and just watch the other kids. I didn't talk to them. I didn't interchange with them at all. I was very, very withdrawn and shy, frightened more than anything. I
Mm.
just didn't want to. have any more bullying.
So there you were, a little girl in school, just standing in the corner at recess. I mean, not even talking to anybody.
Yeah.
How did you do in your studies then? How did you do in your classwork?
Well, I wasn't, as I say, I was put in a special class for children who were slow, and it was called the opportunity class. And I remember learning things like woodwork and knitting and sewing and learning things, how to cook and those kind of things. And I was 7 at that time.
Wow. So did you learn anything like, your letters, numbers, basic?
Not that I remember, but that doesn't mean we didn't. I just don't remember it.
And you actually got your first job at the age of 13.
Yes.
And that was in a retail store, or what was it?
Yeah, that's right. It was called Kresge's. I don't a very long time ago. And yes, it was a real retail store. Yeah.
And on your very first day, what happened?
Well, the ladies, when I went to the counter that was supposed to be the place I was working, the ladies were cleaning out the cupboards and they said, "Boy, this place needs a lot of elbow grease." And I said, "What's that?" Because my dad had things like monkey wrenches and elbow joints, so why wasn't there elbow grease? So they looked at me and said, "You don't know what elbow grease is?" And I said, "No." And they said, "I think there's some over on cosmetics." So cosmetics sent me to some other department, maybe purses or something, and they sent me to one other place. In the meantime, the manager up at the top, it had an office that overlooked the store with a glass front, like they have today. And so he saw this girl going from here to, and so he came down and said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm looking for elbow grease." And he said, "Get back to your counter right away." And that was the end of that.
So when you were going from department to department, did any of the other sales clerks laugh at you, or they just took you seriously and sent you on your way?
They gave me a look, but I didn't understand the look because I'm a kid. And so they just sort of smiled and said, "Oh, there's some over on such and such." I'm sure I saw some over there.
That's really funny. So I'm just curious, when you were working and you got paid, were you able to keep your paycheck, or did it go to the family fund?
No, I would think I was able to keep it, but that was before Christmas. So I used it for Christmas, for my Christmas shopping that year. And I did that every year after that. Yeah. But I didn't, like after Christmas, I was just Christmas help. So after Christmas, they let me go.
Well, my first job actually was as a sales clerk, in a big department store back in my hometown, or my, home county. And nobody ever sent me looking for elbow grease. But one day, I mean, I was so versatile, they thought, and flexible. They used to put me in all different departments. And I was fine in, like the girls' department, the women's department, even the boys' department. I could handle that. And one day, I have no idea why they did this, but they put me up in hardwares. I guess maybe somebody had called in and they needed someone to fill in. So there I was, a 16-year-old girl, and I actually sold a lawnmower. And the guy, the customer, obviously took advantage of my youth and inexperience, because he bought the lawnmower and then he brought it back a couple of weeks later, and it was, full of grass clippings and stained green and stuff. And he said, "Well, the little girl who sold it to me told me I could take it home and try it out, and I could bring it back if I didn't like it."
That's so unfair.
It was very unfair. And when I got home, and I mean, of course, the store manager came to talk to me, and I was just so, rattled and upset. And I didn't cry, though, until I got home and told my mother. And then when my father heard the story, he wanted to know, "Did you get the name of the customer?" And I said, "No." And he says, "What did he look like?" And I thought, he's going to go looking for him. But thank goodness he didn't. So all was well. And I didn't get in trouble. So you, even though you were so shy, you actually were quite attractive, and you were actually doing some modeling.
Yes, I did. I couldn't afford modeling lessons, but I became a hairdresser, and I was working in a salon. It was a high-end salon, very, very high-end. And so they had massage, and they had a steam room, and
Ooh.
they had facials and everything. And they had modeling. And so women could go there and learn to model. So the lady who owned the salon, I didn't think of myself as very good looking at all. I thought, I just didn't think I looked very good. But she convinced me, she said, oh, yeah, yeah, I want to give you free modeling courses. And so
Oh,
she was
wow.
the one who offered that to me. And then I was able to model for her son. He was also a hairdresser, and he was into competitions, hairdressing competitions. And so that was how I did the modeling. I did other modeling too, but most of it was hair and those
Mhm.
kind of things.
Mm-hmm. And you actually were asked to compete for the Miss Canada pageant, right?
Yes. The people that had the salon, the husband of the owner, was he was a big businessman, into all kinds of different things. And he told me that he was the president of the local Miss Canada pageant, and he wanted me to enter. And I was just so shy, I couldn't do that. So
Mm.
I didn't. Yeah,
But what did
I did. I said to him, I don't have a talent. And he said, oh, don't worry, we'll get you on.
we'll find you a talent.
Yeah, that's right, exactly.
So, I mean, I know you didn't think of yourself as very good looking, or you didn't really think about that, but that doesn't surprise me because of all of the insecurities of being told that, you're
Oh,
stupid,
yeah,
you're a
yeah, yeah,
dummy, and all that
yeah,
kind of
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And you really never finished, or you never went past the 8th grade.
Yes, grade 8. My dad was sexually abusive with
Mm-hmm.
myself, and that came out when I was 15. And it had been going on since I'd been 9.
Oh.
And so my mom found out about it. We had told her once before, but that's another story. So anyway, she told my father to leave. And then we were okay. We were all right for a while, but I would do the grocery shopping. That was my job because my mother had to work. But my father would take me grocery shopping. And so what he would do is he would hound me. You're the one who's to blame for our breakup, and you have to talk to mom, and you have to make her take me back. And then I would go to mom and I would say, this is what dad's telling me. I'd say, dad wants to come back. And she would say, and then she would tell me all these horrible stories about my father that, of course, I didn't know. And I was caught in the middle between them
Oh.
so badly. So anyway, that was not a good deal. And so that year I was in grade 8 because I'd already failed twice
Oh.
because of grade 2. So grade 2, I was in grade 2 for 3 years,
Wow.
and got out of grade 2 when we moved to a different school. So when I was 15 in grade 8, and my teacher came to me and said, what's bothering you? What's happening? Your grades have dropped, and I don't want to fail you. But I wouldn't tell him because it was so personal, and you don't talk about sexual abuse. So I didn't tell him. I just sat there and didn't know what to say. I was terrified, to be honest. It was like, so I failed that year, and at grade 8 and 16, I just couldn't do it again. So I left.
Mm-hmm. But
That was
then
the end.
you started taking correspondence courses?
Oh, no, that was much later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was when I was 31. I finally, I was, okay, I have to go back to the teen years
Okay.
because 2 or 3 things happened in that time. I was looking for Mr. Right, and I was determined I was going to marry a university educated man because then he would be able to afford to look after us while I stayed at home and looked after the kids. Because I knew I could do that. and so I started reading because I thought, well, I can't. I'm dumb, so I can't let them see that about me, So I have to show them that I'm, or at least pretend I'm a little bit intelligent.
Oh.
And so I read my sister's mythology books, and I read psychology, and I read philosophy, and I was just loved it. And so the philosophy took me into the various religions of the world and spirituality. Now, going back a bit, just a little bit, my mother was an atheist, and my father didn't do church at all. That was just, who cares? And so when my grandfather died, it made me realize that people died. All people died, and I was going to die. And I was absolutely terrified that I was going to die one day. I just didn't know what to do with this. There was no out, It's going to happen whether you want it or not. And so I went to my mother and I asked her, what happens when you die? And she said, nothing, you just disappear. And that was not what I wanted to hear. That just terrified me more. So I was absolutely frightened to death of death. And so I think that getting into the studies of different philosophies and religions and spiritual and so forth, that happened because I realized that I was trying to search for what did happen. What was the truth? These guys seemed to know something. So I was trying to find that's what the answer. But I didn't find it. And I studied religions all my life now, not just religions, but also spiritual thought and spiritual philosophies and all kinds of related subjects.
Mm-hmm.
And that is about over 66 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So
wow.
It's a lot of years ago that I began studying the spiritual kind of things in my life.
So how old were you when you started that journey in reading?
That was 16.
And then you did have, and I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, that's fine if you don't want to, but there was an incident at the age of 18, suicide attempt?
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, well, actually, that started off negative, but it ended up being a very positive experience because I was out of work and I had no money and my parents were at me to get a job, of course, and I couldn't find one. And so I was a hairdresser. And so what I did was I decided, and I was very, 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 very depressed. I mean, really, actually worse than depressed. I was just really black. So that's probably one of the other reasons why I wasn't getting a job. So anyway, I did try to commit suicide, but it wasn't, I realize now that it wasn't a serious attempt from the point of view that really what I wanted was what I was living with to go away. I just wanted it to go away because my mother had taken my father back at right after my 16th, no, even before my 16th birthday. And my 16th birthday was at the end of school year. So my father came back very, very shortly after that. Mm-hmm. And he had bought my mother a house. And so I felt sold out. I felt that she had sold me out for a house. And that was very painful for me at that time. Anyway, so I was very, very depressed in this place. And so I thought to myself, I'll take some poison. I found some poison in the cupboard. And I was cleaning out the kitchen cupboard. And I found this poison. And I thought, okay, I'm going to take that. So I made a coffee and I poured it in. And I drank the coffee. And but nothing happened because I had doctor told me later, because I had put cream in my coffee and the cream counteracted. Anyway.
If that doesn't make you believe in a higher power, nothing would.
Yeah, I've had quite a few, not attempts, but quite a few close calls and think, I'm not ready yet. I guess it's not time yet.
You had a lot more to do.
Yes, yes, yes. So anyway, then, but that same period of time, I decided, what if I did hairdressing on corpses to do, you know, because in those days, not very many people cremated.
That's true.
So that's what I thought I would do. So anyway, I contacted this man who lived had a funeral parlor that was very close by. So he just about jumped out of his skin. He was so excited, and he hired me, and I went. But what happened was that when I saw that woman, her body, it was such a shock because I'd never seen a dead person before. But what was shocking about it was that I realized I found the soul. That's what I found. I found soul because that was a mannequin. That was not a person. There was no indication of that being a person. She was a mannequin. And so then I realized there was something within us. Now remember, I'm raised as an atheist. So there was something within us that animated us and caused us to be people. Being, it wasn't the personality and it wasn't the ego. So there was something special inside that woman that had caused her to be a human being. And that's when I discovered the soul. So it worked out that it was a beautiful learning experience. Yeah.
Was it, kind of this incredible enlightenment, revelation, or did it come slowly? Or was it at that moment that you were with that woman and her
right
remains?
At that moment, that instant, I was like, bang. I just realized it instantly, right away.
Did that make you even more excited and interested in going back and reading more about spirituality and psychology and the other readings that you had already started?
Yes, because it was another step in the process and helped me to know. Yes, very much so. Yeah.
But you were only 18 at the time, is that correct?
That's right.
So what happened then from that moment of here you are 18 years old and you are a hairdresser for corpses, and now you have this incredible awareness of there is something else and there's something so much bigger than what we are besides our physical being.
Yes.
What happened then after that, the next couple of years?
Well, actually, what happened was a man that I had worked for had opened up a school in another city close by, and he was looking for teachers. So he asked me if I wanted to be a teacher. And so that I became a hairdressing teacher. And right after that. And so I loved it. I absolutely loved teaching. That was my forte. Everything, and it turned out that everything I did, I wound up teaching it. So that was cool.
Wow. How did you feel about that? Because again, I got to go back to your background of being told that you were stupid and, mentally behind everybody else or mentally, disabled or whatever. And now all of a sudden here you are, you're teaching students.
Yes. And I never thought about it. Nobody else ever said anything. Like, for example, my mom and dad were pleased that I had a good job, that I could pay my rent, but they never said anything like, oh, good, this means you're not, slow, or they didn't say anything about it. It was like, okay, that's the way it is. And so I still thought in my mind that I was slow, that I just didn't have it, but I was pretending. And I really did think I was pretending to be smart. That's what I thought.
When did you realize that you really were smart?
Well, I married, but I got my university grad.
How'd that work out?
Terrible. I wound up marrying an alcoholic and an abusive alcoholic. Well, of course, I just been. So anyway, I married this awful man, and the marriage lasted 8.5 years. But about 7.5 or maybe close to 8 years, I had a nervous breakdown. And I went into the hospital, and I was there for quite a long time, and about 5 months, which is a long time.
Yeah.
But it just wasn't getting better. And it turned out because my husband was coming into the hospital and making all kinds of threats and telling me horrible things. And he was telling me he was going to take the kids away from me, and he was going to send me into a psychiatric hospital forever and sign me away. And I mean, he was telling me awful things. And he was having affairs with my best friend. And that was a lot. I mean, it was just terrible. And so I was not getting better.
No, I wonder why.
Yeah. But during the time I was there, I saw a psychologist, and we used to have chats, just chit chat things. And we discussed different topics. And he said, and one time it came out that I said, "Oh, well, I'm retarded." And he said, "What?"
Oh, by the way, you might want to know this.
Yeah, and so he refused to believe it. And I told him, I said, "Well, I'm pretending." And he said, "You can't pretend if it's not there." You know, people who really are slow can't pretend to be anything other than that. So he gave me an IQ test, and it wound up that I was high, quite high in my IQ, like much higher than the average anyway. He'd said around 15%, the top 15%.
And how did you feel when you heard that?
That changed my life. It just a whole different world. I started to see how it was my husband that was the problem and not me, because I'd always owned it. He was the university graduate. I was a grade 8 dropout. He must be the right one. And then I started to see how, no, it wasn't him. It wasn't me. It was him. And the doctors are right. I should get out of this marriage, which is what they've been telling me. And so I did. It took me a little bit, I had to see it. I had to go back and actually see it and experience it and realize it myself. And then I said, I got to get out of here. So I did. I took the 3 kids. We had 3 kids, two girls and a boy. And I took them and moved away to a different city. And I went back to school eventually. I didn't go right away. At home, in the house, because I wanted to test this out. Come on, you can't all of a sudden become, slow and then all of a sudden brilliant. I mean, that just doesn't happen that way. So I wrote to the Board of Education, and I asked for grade 10 math and grade 11 English for them to send me correspondence courses. And so I took the correspondence courses, and I was getting 80s and 90s. I shocked myself, because before that, even the word mathematics would send me into an upset stomach and the whole gamut. So I was shocked, really quite shocked. And so that was how and I didn't finish that. What happened was I wanted to go. I had a really bad episode with my ex-husband. He was just hounding me and just being terrible. And there was nothing I could do about it, because he was the children's father and he had the right to see them. And there was nothing I could do. So I disappeared for a little while. That's why I went to another city. And he put a detective on me and found me, because I wasn't too hard to find, actually. My phone and my car and my license. So anyway, but nothing happened from that. Thank goodness. That's okay. But the point is that when I was in this other city, it was actually London, Ontario. I went there and I wanted to go. I just went up to the desk and I said, "This is crazy." I went up to the desk and I said, "I want to come to college." And this was a community college. And they said, "Well, where's your transcripts?" And I said, "I don't have it." And so, but I said, I've been learning, doing all this stuff at home, and I'm getting 80s and 90s. So, and there was a man standing there, and he was listening to all of this. And so he said to me, come with me. So he takes me into this empty classroom. I sat there, and he said, tell me your story. And that's all he said was, tell me your story. And I just told him everything, the whole gamut. And he said to me at the end, he said, you're in. You're
Wow.
accepted, just like that. It turned out he was one of the instructors or professors or whatever they call them. And so he got me into college like that. Boom. So I don't think that would have worked today.
No, probably not.
And I think I was one of the forerunners. I really, really, really had to work hard to get the money to go to school, because I was on welfare because my husband refused to pay any money because he was drinking it. And so we were destitute, just destitute. And so the college needed their tuition. So I went to one of the ministers of the Ontario Minister of University Affairs and told him my story, and I got student loan. But that was only enough to pay for the college. There was no living amounts there. And so I did have welfare, but when welfare saw that I was getting student loan, they cut me off. And so I had nothing. I mean, I was getting like really nothing. So I asked a bunch of students at college, you want to go together with me in a group home? And I'll be I'll do the meals and so forth and look after the place, and you can pay me. So that's what I did. So I had a sort of like a boarding house and so we had, and this is truthful, that house was haunted.
It was?
It was haunted, yes.
Wow.
It truthfully was haunted. The second night we were all in there. There was 4 of us. There was myself and my 3 kids. They had the master bedroom, and then myself, I had a small bedroom, and I had a girl that I just loved. She was such a sweetheart, and she was blind, and we called her Scout, but her name was Susan. And then I had another girl in the bed beside me, so that was 4 bedrooms upstairs. And then I had another girl downstairs in an alcove that would have been like a dining area. But anyway, so we closed that off, and that was another bedroom. And the second night I'm in there, I hear these thundering footprints. Just, you wouldn't believe, just across the attic, because this is a 3-story house, and we're on the 2nd floor. So I hear these bang, bang, and it's like 2:00 in the morning, 2:30. So then the banging noises come down the stairs. And I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking it's one of the girls. And I'm thinking, I'm going to give that person a piece of my mind when they come around. And while they're walking from the staircase, and then they have to come around, and they're hitting the wall, bang, 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 knocking on the wall. And so I'm hearing all this noise. And my bedroom is at the top of the stairs, and my door's open. And I'm just waiting for whoever appears to get my mindful. And nothing appeared. Nothing. There was nothing there. I've heard of the hairs standing on the back of your neck, and I thought that was just it really happens. I was, oh my God. And then the noise didn't make a lot of noise going down the rest of the stairs. I could hear them going down, but it wasn't thundering. It was just a normal footsteps. And I thought, you bugger. Anyway, and then during the time we were there, the kids saw an old man. And they used to talk about this old man that they'd met. But obviously it was harmless, because we never had any harm. But during the evenings when I would be in bed reading, I would hear like a crowd of people talking, mumbling, like as if it was a cocktail party downstairs. I didn't hear clinking of glasses, but I would hear mumbling voices of like a crowd of people. Another noise I would hear frequently was the kitchen cupboards opening and closing.
Oh, jeez.
Another one was that I had a 3-year-old. So my 3-year-old used to call out at night for me to give her a glass of water. So I was in bed one time and I was very ill, and I heard my daughter call out. And so I got up to go and give her, and it was in the middle of the daytime. And it dawned on me, they're not at home. There's no children in the house. So I just turned around and went back to bed.
Oh, geez. Now, I'm curious, did you ever research the history of the house or who had lived there before?
I asked people around, just different people around. Nobody knew anything about ghosts or anything, but the original farmhouse, it was originally a farmhouse, and then that had all this land around it. And the land had built right up to its door. So there was no farm left at all, just a backyard and the house. So you would just think it was a big house in the city. But that was the story. But I never heard any history, and I didn't look it up myself. I was busy doing other things.
Of course. And that was a long time ago, but I'm curious if the house is still standing today.
Yeah, I would be interested to find that out too. I think it was because the husband and wife that owned the place lived in Jamaica. And so they wanted to come up here. So they took over the house for me.
I'll bet they were surprised when they did.
I don't know. Maybe the person you know what I did? I went down into the kitchen the next morning, and I just called out to the air and said, I really like this house and I'm going to stay, and you're welcome to stay if you want, but we would appreciate it if you didn't bother us. And that was the end.
That was it.
I mean, I heard these noises, but nothing came to us. None of us. Yeah.
Wow. That is just an amazing story. So thank you so much for sharing it. And
you're welcome.
I really want to hear about the near-death experiences and about your books, but we're running out of time. So I would like to invite you to come back. Would you do that?
Oh, I would love to.
And this is a great place to segue from your story of the ghost in the house into the near-death experiences and stuff. But thank you so much for being here today. And I just want to ask you, I mean, you have, like I said, overcome so many incredible challenges and obstacles in your life from the time you were a baby. And what would you tell to the listeners? What advice could you give them who might be going through tough times or might just feel like, they're in a rut or they can't get through things? What kind of advice could you give them?
First thing that I would say is don't shortchange yourself. Trust yourself way more than you are, because you have got so much ability that you don't even know. Every single person has ability, and every single person has something they can give to the world. And so it doesn't matter what it is. Mm-hmm. So follow your dream and trust yourself.
That is excellent advice. And once again, thank you so much. And we will have you back on the show because I'm dying to hear more about the NDEs and maybe a little more spooky talk too. That would be great.
Yeah. Okay. All right. And thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Oh, it's been great. And I'm so glad I had a chance to meet you. And so thank you for contacting me. This has been great.
You're welcome.
Oh, before we go, how can people find you? How can they get a hold of you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter, LinkedIn, and I am on Instagram, but I don't know how to use Instagram.
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it out.
Never figured out how to post on there.
No, it's a mystery.
And I also have a website, so please come and share. I have tons of good stuff in there. So it's lynnKrussell.com. That's it. It's super easy to find.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we will be talking again. So for everybody, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. And thank you for supporting me all the way through these previous 99 episodes. And here we are, season 3, episode 100. And remember that you all have inner abilities and strengths that you might not even realize. So remember, as Lynn said, to follow your dream and to trust yourself. And that is the way of the FemiNinja. And that's a wrap on another episode of the FemiNinja Project. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, be safe, be strong, and until next time, bye now.